Hey, Hardin County, it is November 12th, and we had the commissioners meeting. They started out, they did the minutes. Of course, there's always reallocations, release of funds. So much from JFS resigned. So that's another resignation for JFS. And there were some more insurance. They're trying to renew their insurance with Corsa. And evidently the fair board has a couple like temporary, well, the fairground has some temporary, I don't know if they're sheds or buildings of some sort that are on skids that were donated, and so they were trying to figure out how to get those added to the insurance. So not sure what those are or who donated them, but they want to make sure they're insured. Richard Lawson came in and gave an update. So the courthouse, is getting the re-roofing. The crane was out there this morning delivering supplies, and Dan Schroeder's doing that. So it's a little bit interesting because they decided not to do the copper. There's like a copper gutter, and I think what Richard said is that they're not going to replace that copper, and they are they had the two optional things. Well, I guess the copper was optional, and then they were going to raise up an air conditioner unit and put it on a better stand. That was optional. And I think that it was like in the $250 range or with those options. So anyways, they went with Dan Schroeder, and it was $189,654 was the final bid. So I tried to go back through my notes to see what the other bids were without those optional things. I couldn't find it. I'm going to keep looking for it because it'll be interesting just to look at those numbers. So so they're doing the re-roofing, but they're also doing the drywall in the basement. So if you go down in the bottom of the courthouse, they've got a bunch of paneling. From what I understand, they're just going to put drywall over that paneling, and they're going to paint it. They had a conversation with Melody Miller, who does a lot of the courthouse painting, and it was $2,100 for her to prime it and paint it. And Richard just didn't feel like he wanted to do it with his crew, and so they got Melody, which she's a good painter. So it'll look nice, but maybe something that they could at least put primer on, in my opinion, since they're full-time staff maintenance people. So anyways, to each their own. They talked a little bit about the caboose and possibly not putting the caboose uptown because of all the construction and then where the crane is, and so they just really messed it all up. Oh, and then the other thing is that the people for the Marks radio towers are there trying to do their thing. So Richard's got like 3 projects going currently at the moment. Pine Gate Renewable came in, and they just got their PUCO boilerplate approved, and so it's got to go to the OPSB, the Ohio Power Sitting Board, from here, but they did get the PUCO requirements done, which I think that's when they have to do studies. They have to do different types of studies, and we're learning about this whole process. It's pretty complicated, and when different things come through, and it can take years in between things when you're trying to get permits. So anyway, so this Pine Gate or Panther Creek, it started out being Indian Lake Solar, I think is what it's called. So they often change names, and they were going to be like, so Hale Township and Taylor Creek Ridgeway is in there, and it was kind of this whole section here. And originally it was more in front of Ridgeway. It is now kind of moved over. So, kind of 292, 68 area. So you'll probably see more of it from 68. And it's solely in Taylor Creek Township at this point. And this is the final, I have the final like solar fields that are going to be included in this. And so there's going to be a couple lands, fields that are in the Ridgemont school bond, because that's a big deal, that if a lot of this acreage, which there was a lot of acreage over in Ridgemont, that would take that acreage off the school bond, which would make everybody else's taxes go up because they have to carry the burden of the school bond. They have moved that over, and more of it's going to be in Ben Logan School District, which means that then Ridgemont doesn't get the pilot money. I mean, it's kind of a rough thing all the way around. The reason, oh, and here's the other thing. It was a 240 megawatt project, and it's now down to 140 megawatt. And the reason she gave was that there was a lease. A homeowner had a lease, and they had changed their mind, decided not to re-up their lease. And so it was kind of connection point to some other lands, right? And so they just said, oh, we're just going to skip that portion of it and not deal with it. So so it's smaller, so at least that's good. So yeah, so they're looking at the next step. So next summer they'll be at the OPSB, so in 25, and then hopefully get the permit at the end of 26. It can take a year to 18 months to do that. And then of course, then you have all your construction. So that's kind of an update. There are, I think I counted like 9 houses on the map that will be completely surrounded on 3 sides from solar. So, you know, I'll try to get the map put up here. So if you're one of those people, you may want to get involved. So I think that was kind of it. I did talk to the commissioners about the alternative energy zone. So we had heard that they had signed a contract. So evidently, I know Bryce Beeman was in office previously, but before our current gentleman, they had signed an alternative zone agreement, which basically says, you know, it's a quick pass through like the OSPB. But they said that was rescinded back in 2016. So we're working on getting that confirmed to make sure that it actually is that way, because when you go to add restricted zones, that can stand in your way. So hopefully it's already done and it's not a problem. And I know several townships are moving to make their townships for anything that's 50 megawatts and over restricted, so that you can't have those big projects. You still can have smaller projects, and those are determined at the township level. So you know, get in contact with me if you are interested. I can get you in contact with who your township trustees are if needed. So anyways, and then I did ask, because on Tuesday at the election there was a criminal justice levy put on there, and it was pretty confusing, and it did fail. And then we found out later that it was actually the salaries for the 911 the dispatchers, 911 dispatchers. And so I was asking, like, who writes that language? And because I know it has to go through the commissioner's office, right? So they kind of say, yes, we can put it on the ballot, because there's a lot of cost involved with putting stuff on the ballot. And so the state puts that wording in there, and they basically have to approve what the state wording is, which does seem a little strange. And why 911 dispatch would come across as criminal justice, it all seems a little crazy. I do know it was a big shock, that the reality of what that levy was. And we'll see. I'm sure the sheriff can ask for some additional funds from the commissioners to cover 911 dispatch. So they'll figure it out one way or another. So other than that, it was a short day. Kind of big news with the solar that is coming through. They did talk about that is kind of the last big project that they do have coming through. Anything outside of that would be much smaller, 50 megawatts. So still something to keep an eye out for. But anyways, all right, we'll talk to you later. Bye.